Hey everyone, this is Steve Stover. I'm in my back patio here in Oceanside, California, and I'm doing a video posted on YouTube, for the topic of buying real estate in the country of the Philippines, purchasing real estate, some property in the Philippines, and what does it take for a foreigner of the Philippines, or sometimes known as an expatriate, to be able to do that. And if you're watching and would like to make any comments, feel free to do so. If there's any information that you feel that's inaccurate, feel free to comment. I'm open to constructive criticism. And so just wanted to, the reason I'm doing that is, one is I actually am interested in eventually retiring in the Philippines, and hopefully within the next 10 years be able to live there. And so that's why I'm did some research. And the second reason is for a class assignment. So without any further ado, let's move forward with some information. The different reasons why people move there is the cost of living. The cost of living in the Philippines is so, of course, as many people know, very cheap. The currency exchange rate, the U.S. dollar and the Filipino peso is for $1, it's 50 pesos. So someone an American who's used to using, of course, U.S. currency can buy things very cheap there. It was estimated by internationalliving.com that the average expatriate can comfortably live in the Philippines for about $1,525 per month, and that includes everything: food, housing, activities, entertainment, you name it. That includes everything. Of course, housing is a big part of that, but that's something. The other reason that people move there is because of the culture. They enjoy the culture. That's my personal experiences. I've had a very positive experience with the Filipino community here in San Diego, and felt very welcome, and just a very family-oriented type of sense that they give. So, of course, there's exceptions to everything, but that has been my experience, and that's why people move there. So, the average when you're looking for a house, it's obvious it's good to look at a variety of different factors. What the lifestyle is like. Of course, in the city, it's going to be more fast-paced, like in the cities of Manila, Quezon City, Davao City. It's going to be more fast-paced, easier access to markets, stores, healthcare. But of course, there's going to be more congested traffic and closer. I'm not sure if there's a higher case of a higher crime rate. It would seem like that, but that's what one friend of mine told me, that it's a higher. You have to be very careful when you're in Manila, and keeping your wallet tucked in very tight in your front pocket, because there's a lot of pickpockets. That's what one friend said. I'm not sure if that's the case, but as far as real estate is concerned, there's certain things and laws and regulations you have to keep in mind. Any foreigner, expatriate, who's not a citizen of the Philippines, is not legally permitted to purchase property, the land itself. It's illegal to do that. If you ever have someone try to sell you land and you're not a citizen, you're not native Filipino, then it's a scam. Be careful of that. Now, a foreigner can purchase the residence, the structure, the house itself, and then lease the property from the owner. And the lease can be as long as 50 years. There's laws that allow it for as long as 50 years. And the price ranges vary. What I've found is in my research, the average square foot, average price per square foot for a house in the metropolitan areas is about $165 per square foot. So what that comes out to be is about for a house of about 1,200 square feet. A house that's probably a house I'd probably be interested in buying. Not too big, not too small. That's about $200,000 U.S. dollars. Now, outside the city, in a rural area, the average price per square foot is only $91 per square foot. and that's about $110,000. Now, of course, you could purchase. Now, there's homes for sale that are much higher and much lower between those ranges. That's just the average, based upon the research that was done. The average interest rate at this time, the national average interest rate is about 7.59% for a 20-year fixed rate mortgage. So. Again, it's understatement to say that you should use a real estate agent when looking to going through the process of purchasing a home, and specifically an experienced agent who is familiar and has experience with expats, foreigners. Otherwise, you can get scammed big time. Be very careful because. Ownership is not as black and white. What I've been told is it's not as clear, even though you do have a title and there's records in what's called the Register of Deeds office. That you have the title. You want to make sure you check everything and have everything in place before when you go through that process. Now, there is ways where a foreigner can purchase property, and that is if they're married. To a Filipino citizen, if their spouse is Filipino, so they can the Filipino spouse can then purchase the property, the entire property. Now, on the title itself, the spouse that is the foreigner will not have his or her name on that title. It will be the spouse. It will be the Filipino spouse, of course. But in the contract, you can include the foreigner spouse's name on the contract of the purchase property, purchasing the property. So another way to purchase properties that a foreigner can do that is through by purchasing it as a corporation. Now, the condition for that is that 60% of that corporation needs to be owned by Filipino citizens. So the full property can be owned as long as 60%. The same is true for if someone wants to purchase a condo. 60% of the condo complexes need to be owned by Filipino citizens. So that's something to keep in mind. The last thing, not the last thing, but one thing also is the different transaction fees that someone needs to be aware of is the capital gains tax. Usually, of course, typically paid by the seller, but sometimes it's paid by the purchaser, and it's included in the purchase price. That's usually around 6%, either the sale price or the fair market value, whichever is the highest, or the zonal value. Then the other fee is the documentary stamp tax, which is about 1.5% of whatever the highest amount is among the sale price, zonal price, or the fair market value. The transfer tax is between 0.5% to 0.75%. And then the last is the title registration fee. That's generally about 0.25%. That's actually listed on, it's published on a registration fee table that the real estate agent should be able to show you. And that varies according to what's listed there. And the last thing, of course, I want to mention is when looking at purchasing a home in the Philippines, is definitely consider location and just your welfare. There's certain parts of the Philippines that can be very dangerous for, especially U.S. Citizens, for Americans, because of the nature of the population. There are many individuals in that area that wouldn't hesitate to try to kidnap and kill a U.S. American if they had an opportunity. So consider that and just do your research in terms of where that's located. That's typically in Mindanao, and there's certain other areas also you have to be careful. And also when you're traveling, just if you're with, as long as you're with either some Filipino friends or a group, then you typically, overall, you're safe. But always, just be aware of your surroundings. It's like any place that you go. So if you have any further questions, I see the time is up. And feel free to either post questions or make any comments. And thanks for watching. Have a great day now.